Thank you, please be seated. Prefect joke of the day is, why don't cannibals eat clowns for breakfast? Because they taste funny.
Thank you, Alexis. Very funny. It was. Good morning, everyone. So, we tend in chapel to go from like a roar to like absolute quiet. So, you probably, somewhere in between would probably be good. As we've said before, feel free to talk to your neighbor in chapel, but in a quiet voice, Does that make sense? It gets really loud in here. It's like a bar, The more people talk, the louder they get. Anyways, that's enough of that. Our first hymn is Morning Has Broken, hymn number 27. Please stand. Was nice. Thank you. Please be seated. Just to begin, I'm going to ask Caitlin and Hallie to come up with a short message for us.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the 2018 Edge Zimbabwe team, we'd first off like to thank you for all your continued support to our program over the years, and would like to present to you our goal today.
Our goal for our expedition is raising funds towards 3 different causes. The first is helping mentally and physically disabled children with nothing to call their own. We want to give them resources for a better life. The second is continuing our legacy at a school in Milibisi. Your past donations have helped school 375 kids in a safe classroom environment, and we would love your support once more to raise this number. Our third project includes working at a wildlife park that educates and balances an equilibrium with living with animals. Tomorrow we will be having a Friday Fun Day. You can dress in your casual clothes for a $2 donation.
Our team this year will be organizing a 50-50 draw and an iPad raffle. It is $5 for 1 ticket and $10 for 3 tickets for the 50-50 draw, and separately $5 per ticket for a raffle for a new iPad. The draw will be Friday at lunch. After class, on Friday, please join us in the quad for Stag and Snack Shack, along with some fun games and music and a dunk tank. We will be coming around the houses tonight to collect your donations.
We would be so appreciative if you would contribute to this ongoing and worthy cause as you have in the past. It has made such a difference, and we cannot thank you enough.
Thank you, ladies. So the other day I asked a group of grade 12s, if they could give me some ideas for chapel talk this morning. Like a lot of things kind of running out of ideas as the year ends. So one student said, we should talk about, how we should embrace everything during the last few weeks of school, because we're like going to be gone. Seriously, that was a student's idea, not mine. Anyway, I thought it was a great topic and a great message to make the most of the final days of the school year. So our final hymn, no, I'm kidding. No, I can't shirk my responsibility or my compulsion, if compulsion is something you can shirk, to say a few words. But I will try to be short this morning. I thought of this topic of engaging in life, especially at this time of year. And I've been reading a book by a Toronto psychologist named Jordan Peterson. And he's an interesting guy. He writes that we live on small islands of the known in a vast sea of the unknown. It's an interesting and wonderful image. And he describes how our brains are wired to keep us to want to be on our island of the known, to stay there, to keep focused on things that we know, things that are familiar. Because we each have in our brains what psychologists call a mental map. And our individual mental map is our idea of how the world is. So we actually have in our mind an idea of what the world looks like a map of things. And this helps us make meaning out of the world. And without it, the world would seem kind of crazy and chaotic. Or maybe I should say, it seem even more crazy and chaotic than it seems. So our mental map helps us to navigate through our days to get where we need to go, to do what we need to do. You get the idea. So our brains like it when we are comfortable and safe and when we stay on the island of the known, when we stay with things that we're sure of. The problem is, of course, is that there's a cost to living confined in the familiar. We get bored, we get restless, we get stagnant, we miss a lot, and we can tend to avoid embracing life fully when we're just, I know this, I'm gonna stay with this. So we're always in a struggle with ourselves to step off this island of the known, and it's difficult to do so because the feelings that accompany entering unfamiliar territory for us are not necessarily the ones we tend to enjoy. Fear, anxiety, instability, even sometimes disorientation, and we don't like those feelings. The familiar, on the other hand, is like a drug, it keeps us happy and calm. Oh, I know this is great. The unfamiliar is scary. So to enter into the unfamiliar and thus to enter, I think, into the world in a fuller way, it takes some doing. It's work. It takes curiosity, it takes mental courage, and it takes imagination. And we possess all these qualities to some extent, but having the capacity to do something and actually do it are not, as you know, necessarily the same thing. So how often do we feel bored or restless? And then when we do, how often do we think that it's someone else's fault? Of course, I'm bored. People don't let me do anything. We shake our fists at the world because we feel we are somehow confined by other people on this island of the unknown, or the island of the known and familiar. And I would say this is a very convenient idea. I don't stay in the familiar because the unfamiliar is scary. Someone's keeping me from wandering into the unknown. It's someone else's fault. Anybody have that thought? I'm bored because other people just won't let me do things that I want to do. Who has that thought, honestly? Yes, there's 2 or 3 of you anyways. So I would suggest gently that that's someone else who we think is keeping us from doing what we need to do actually may be our own fears. It's just something to consider. It's very easy to rationalize that I don't do things, I don't step out, I don't try new things because, after all, I'm living this very structured and confined life. So the thing about mental courage and curiosity and imagination is that they cannot simply be switched on and off. They have to be cultivated and grown little by little. So this fear that we have of the unknown has actually evolved with our brains over millions of years. And it's evolved because it's a good thing. our kind of wanting to not, our fear of the unfamiliar is a good thing. It keeps us from doing stupid things like picking up poisonous snakes or stepping off cliffs or eating weird-looking mushrooms, all these things that people have learned not to do. So overcoming that fear is like a battle with ourselves, a battle with our evolved little brains. So in these last few weeks of school, it may be particularly challenging to embrace the unknown and familiar because we just want to get through it, right? There's enough going on without adding anything new. So you might not be interested in my final suggestions, and that's okay. But if the idea of stepping off the island of the unknown and off the island of the known and familiar interests you, my suggestion is simply that you change things up in some little ways. So instead of having salad of greens, quinoa, and ranch for lunch, try pickled beets, kale, and green goddess. I know it's a little thing. Instead of sitting next to your friend in class, sit with next to someone who looks interesting or maybe even terrifying. Take a different route to the Shaw Building. Do your prep at the beginning of the night instead of at the end of the night. Talk to someone who you have never spoken to before. Or tell someone who is a close friend something that you haven't told them, like how much you care and appreciate and love them. Walk the grounds here as if you've never seen them before. Smell the smells of spring, hear the red-winged blackbirds, be aware of how much is going on in the world around us. Just do something different, just something little. But be aware of the resistance in you of changing even the littlest thing. As you reach for the spinach, I like my salad, I like sitting next to my friends. But of course, this isn't really about salad or friendship. It's about expanding our world in little ways. Because for all of us, perhaps especially for the grade 12s, the world is about to change in some rather major ways. Whether it's graduation, retirement, or a new headmaster, we are all about to be cast into the sea of the unknown. So why wait? Why not start today? Go for a little swim, or just take a little dip, or just even dip your toes in. So, some time ago, someone told me they didn't like the Case House hymn lyrics because they felt kind of, there were all these imagery about weapons and fighting and whatnot. But of course, the hymn is really about precisely what I've been talking about today, this idea of developing mental courage, the courage to try new things, to explore new worlds. So let's sing the Case House hymn and really think about the lyrics this morning. Hymn number 5, Jerusalem. Thank you all. Have a great day.